Police gives details on the 58 million yen robbery case. Secretary for Security Chris Tang said police officers should have an iron will, compassion, and insights. More protests in the U.S. against Donald Trump's immigration policy. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. 6 people, including 3 Japanese nationals, have been arrested in connection with a robbery involving over 50 million yen in Sheungwan yesterday. This as the police recovered some 11 million yen of the stolen cash. Timothy Lee tells us more.
The robbery took place on Daewoo Road Central in Sheungwan on Friday, with the police having already recovered around 20% of the stolen cash and the bag that was used to carry them. In a briefing on Saturday afternoon, the police said 2 employees of a Japanese company were carrying 190 million yen's worth of cash, or around 10 million Hong Kong dollars, to a currency exchange shop in Central, hoping to exchange them for local currency to purchase precious metals. At around 9:30 a.m. Friday, they were ambushed by 2 men when they got off a taxi in Sheungwan, with the robbers stealing one bag containing 51 million yen, or about 2.5 million Hong Kong dollars. Police investigations reveal the criminals attempted to flee from the city by plane on the same day and immediately deployed officers to pursue the robbers at the airport. 2 Japanese nationals suspected to be the robbers and a mainland woman were arrested, with officers seizing around 4.6 million yen's worth of cash on the spot. Further investigations indicated that a portion of the stolen cash had already been transferred. Authorities later arrested 2 cryptocurrency shop employees in Shimsha-Chui and seized another 7 million yen's worth of cash at another currency exchange shop. Officers then arrested the 27-year-old Japanese national who claimed to be the victim of the robbery, suspecting him of being an accomplice. The police said the robbers were familiar with the route traveled by the victim, adding certain individuals' testimonies were contradictory. This as Japanese media earlier reported 2 robberies in Tokyo that involved the transport of yen to Hong Kong. The police noted they will contact relevant counterparts in Japan if necessary. Meanwhile, Police Commissioner Joe Chow addressed the string of robberies in the city over the last 1.5 months by increasing patrols around currency exchange shops and jewelry stores. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
The new regulation mandating bus passengers to wear seatbelts has been put on hold less than a week after coming into force. Authorities cited shortcomings in the provisions. Commissioner of Police Joe Chow says no relevant prosecutions have been made during the period. The compulsory seatbelt requirement for bus passengers took effect on January 25th. Police Commissioner Joe Chow says enforcement during this period has focused mainly on publicity and public education to help citizens understand that seatbelts can often be life-saving in traffic accidents. He says safeguarding road safety is never a waste of police resources. Separately, Chow says police are continuing probes into a traffic incident involving lawmaker Judy Chan, who allegedly drove against oncoming traffic in Wan Chai. He says prosecution will follow if sufficient evidence is found. When asked about the timeline of reopening Firehead Wan for court in Tai Po, Chow says related work has yet to be completed, noting that some scaffolding structures had been severely damaged or partially burnt, which posed a risk of collapse. Additional time is needed to dismantle them safely, and further assessment is required to determine how long the process will take. Speaking at the Hong Kong Police College's passing out parade today, Secretary for Security Chris Tang encouraged the probationary inspectors and recruit constables to perform their duties while prioritizing the well-being of residents. Timothy Lee has more.
A celebratory atmosphere with 15 probationary inspectors and 248 recruit constables marching into the graduation ceremony performing the Chinese goose step. While inspecting the parade, Secretary for Security Chris Tang noted several of the nation's achievements over the past 5 years in various fields ranging from the economy, military to technology, while Hong Kong has completed the legislation for Article 23 of the Basic Law. Tang said police officers must perform their duties while embodying the 3 capabilities of having an iron will, compassion, and insights, adding that they should prioritize the well-being of residents in their work.
我哋嘅同事喺極度嘅惡劣環境底下，
Tang held the sacrifices made by the police while facing challenges such as the Wangfu Court fire last year, stressing how officers would dig through the debris with their bare hands in hopes of recovering the remains of the deceased. He emphasized this compassion should be a source of pride for the force. Tang further noted the police should embrace new ideas and an innovative spirit to tackle the ever-evolving techniques employed by criminals. This as more than 11,000 people applied to join the force during the first 3 quarters of this financial year, which is an increase of 9.3% compared with the previous year. The police will be extending its recruitment drive to mainland universities. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Financial Secretary Paul Chan will deliver the budget on February 25th. He says Hong Kong's operating account is expected to return to surplus earlier than anticipated, buoyed by a surge in stamp duty as a result of active stock trading. However, he stresses that bond issuance will still be needed to fund infrastructure development, and with geopolitical tensions remaining complex, prudent fiscal management is essential. In the first 9 months of this fiscal year, the government logged a surplus of over $40 billion. Financial Secretary Paul Chan says the improvement was ratcheted up by a stronger financial market, with stock stamp duty revenue expected to reach nearly $100 billion. That allows Hong Kong to return to an operating account surplus sooner. With the public consultation on the new budget underway, Chan says he understands calls from different sectors of society for measures such as tax relief, but the government must balance competing priorities. Speaking on a radio program, the finance chief compares fiscal discipline to weight control, noting it is easy to loosen spending but difficult to rein it back in. He stressed the need for sustained discipline in containing expenditure growth while avoiding measures that could be perceived as unfair or unbalanced. He adds that development of the Northern Metropolis must be accelerated, and there are major infrastructure projects which will require bond issuance under the capital account. He notes that fiscal buffers are also necessary given the current geopolitical uncertainties. So he says he's cautiously optimistic about the economic outlook for the year ahead, with signs of stabilization in the property market, while the stock market reflects renewed confidence among overseas investors in Hong Kong. That's despite sectors such as catering and retail remaining under considerable pressure, he admits. He noted that as the economy improves, overall wages have risen and that measures to integrate resources have helped contain growth in the civil service. Overseas, protesters held no work, no school, no shopping strikes across the U.S. on Friday to oppose the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. Tracy Furness reports.
In Missouri, protesters gathered outside a Department of Homeland Security office in Kansas City to protest against the Trump administration's immigration policies. Sandy Cox, a retired federal employee, said she believed there is anxiety across Kansas City about the potential for ICE operations.
I spent last week sitting in my house, literally sick to my stomach, over another person being killed for no reason at all. That's why I'm out here in this freezing cold weather, and hope that everybody out there understands that we have to learn how to get along and look at the facts and recognize what the facts are. And the facts are that what this administration is doing to immigrants is unreasonable.
How did we get to this point? How are so many people okay with what's happening, and why is there not more outrage? So trying to support those in Minneapolis and all the way out here in Missouri and Kansas, we hear you, and it's not okay.
Protests too in Las Vegas, Nevada, standing with Minnesota. Pets too showing support. A few counter-protesters supporting ICE were also present. This reading, Stop Illegal Immigration. And in Los Angeles, protesters gathered at City Hall and later marched to the Federal Detention Center. As the demonstration stretched into the evening, federal agents began using chemical sprays to push the crowd back. Thousands took to the streets, blocking traffic. Many other demonstrations were planned for students and others to gather at city centers, state houses and churches across the United States. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres sent a letter to member states warning that the organization is at risk of an imminent financial collapse because of non-payment of dues by some member states. Danny Zhou reports.
In a letter sent to all 193 member states, Guterres said the UN financial situation has been rapidly deteriorating, as some member states do not pay mandatory contributions in full, while others fail to pay dues on time. The organization is thus forced to experience hiring freezes and cutbacks, and is in danger of running out of money by July if the situation persists, said the UN chief. Over 150 member states paid their dues last year, whereas the UN still ended 2025 with $1.6 billion, or about 12 billion Hong Kong dollars in unpaid contributions, doubling the amount from the previous year. Guterres pointed out that a budget rule requiring the return of unspent funds to member states has made it difficult for the organization to remain liquid. In January alone, the UN needs to return unreceived funds of $227 million, or over 1.7 billion Hong Kong dollars. Guterres called on member states to clear their outstanding dues without identifying the countries responsible, and urged an overhaul of the UN's financial rules to avoid collapse. The contributions are set according to each member state's gross domestic product, debt, and other factors. The United States accounts for 22% of the organization's core budget, closely followed by China's 20%. In November 2025, the UN thanked China for paying up its dues for the year. According to media reports, the Trump administration did not pay its contribution to the UN's regular budget last year, owing more than $2.1 billion in recurrent budget and $2.4 billion in peacekeeping. Since returning to the White House, US President Donald Trump has ordered to pull out of more than 60 international agencies, half of which are part of the UN. Trump earlier formed the Board of Peace to sideline the UN, accusing it of not supporting the US-led peacemaking efforts in the war-ravaged Gaza. When launching his initiative in Davos, Switzerland, Trump said the Board of Peace will work with the UN. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
And still ahead, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer meets Shanghai's Party Secretary Chen Jining. Trump's pick to be the next Federal Reserve Chief, Kevin Walsh, under attack from Democrats. And more documents from the Epstein files have been released. Welcome back. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is in Shanghai in his bid to boost business opportunities for British companies in the world's second largest economy. Nasir Karim with more.
A flute welcome under the rain for British Prime Minister Keir Starmer at Shanghai's historic Yuyuan Park. Following a meeting with President Xi Jinping in Beijing on Wednesday, Starmer arrived at China's financial center, Shanghai. At the park, he visited a shop selling delicacies, and he met student designers from the Shanghai International College of Fashion and Innovation, a joint institute between Shanghai's Donghua University and the University of Edinburgh. A London bus lantern and a cat with a Union flag bow tie. On Saturday, he met Chen Jining, the Shanghai Party Secretary, accompanied by a large contingent of leaders from British businesses hoping to tap into China's vast markets.
As you rightly say, this is the first visit by a British Prime Minister to China in 8 long years. And I'm very proud and pleased to be the Prime Minister that is here leading a delegation for this visit. And as you can see, I'm travelling with a large delegation of some of the top and best businesses in the United Kingdom, some of our best cultural organisations and institutions in art, in museums, in sport, and so much more travelling with us. And that signals just how important a moment we, the UK, see this reset of the relationship with China.
The day before, Starmer attended a China-UK business event featuring British brands such as Burberry, Brompton Bikes and Jellycat at the Westbund Orbit, a newly completed exhibition centre in Shanghai's Xuhui district, designed by British firm Heatherwick Studio. Starmer said that increased engagement between China and the UK will build trust and create more opportunities for both countries. Starmer's next stop is Japan. Nazri Karim, TVB News.
Donald Trump picked Kevin Walsh to become the next chairman of the Federal Reserve on Friday. But a top Democrat on the Senate Banking Committee has accused Walsh of reshaping his views to appease Trump. Tracy Furness reports.
Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren has called Trump's nominee for the next federal chairman, Kevin Warsh, a sock puppet for always agreeing with Trump.
He repeats Trump's lies about the economy itself. Trump says prices are down. Kevin Warsh repeats that, goes on Fox News, says, yep, prices are down when they're not. I don't know how to interpret that, except to say that's exactly what a sock puppet does. If Donald Trump says it, then Kevin Warsh echoes it, even though it contradicts everything he had done for years.
If Warsh is approved by the Senate, he will be under scrutiny as to whether he can maintain the Fed's long-time independence from day-to-day politics while also placating Trump. This will be a challenge, according to Warren.
The big problem we've got here is that Donald Trump is trying to execute a takeover of the Fed. And that's a real problem for American families. Because if the President of the United States is in charge, that means monetary policy, the interest rates, will be set for political reasons rather than economic reasons. And over time, that drives up costs for families.
But President Trump was full of praise for his pick for the next Fed chair.
This was the man that's most qualified. Top student, best schools, everything was like perfect. The youngest person ever to serve on the Fed. Got the whole package.
Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, on a visit to Turkey, has made clear that Tehran is open to fair and just talks with Washington, but ruled out negotiating on missiles. This as U.S. President Donald Trump suggested the White House has privately communicated a deadline to Iran to reach a deal. The USS Delbert D. Black, one of the many U.S. warships in the Middle East, has reportedly docked in Eilat, Israel's Red Sea port, in what Tel Aviv described as a routine visit. At a news conference, Araghchi said Tehran had no plan to meet U.S. officials and that it's ready to fight. He said his country will not accept coercion nor negotiate on defense capabilities and missile development. The U.S. Justice Department has released many more records from its investigative files on Jeffrey Epstein. Tracy Furness has more.
The U.S. Justice Department has released 3 million pages of documents in the latest Jeffrey Epstein disclosure, along with 2,000 videos and 180,000 images. The documents were disclosed Friday under the Epstein Files Transparency Act, a law intended to reveal what the government knew about the millionaire financier's sexual abuse of young girls and his interactions with the rich and powerful.
Among the things we're seeing as we comb through these records are files from court proceedings and investigations into Epstein and Maxwell, correspondence that he had with friends and associates, and we're seeing photographs and videos in which some faces are blacked out, redacted.
Some of the people associated with Epstein revealed in the files included celebrities, politicians, and ex-US presidents.
The Bannon connection is fascinating because it shows that Epstein's reach was phenomenal. I mean, whether it was people like Woody Allen or Bill Clinton, Steve Bannon, Donald Trump, Epstein was at the center of a lot of circles, a lot of concentric circles, and that was the American elite of politics, finance, entertainment, society, and it just shows that he had something that people wanted.
Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said the category of documents withheld in this latest release include those that contain personal information of the victims.
The categories of documents withheld include those permitted under the Act to be withheld. Files that contain personally identifiable information of victims or victims' personal and medical files, and similar files, the disclosure of which would constitute a clearly unwarranted invasion of personal privacy.
Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Back locally, the Buildings Department has uncovered 2 cases of non-compliant installation of scaffolding safety nets. Industry representatives think that some contractors under time pressure and financial strain may have taken risks to speed up work. Following the Wanful court fire, the government tightened requirements for scaffolding nets. Contractors carrying out building maintenance were required to remove all external wall scaffolding nets. Only nets that have obtained certification may be reinstalled. Among the 2 non-compliant cases, one involved maintenance works on an existing building, where scaffolding nets were installed without obtaining a satisfactory test report. In another case, at a new construction site, contractors put up nets that had failed testing. The department has ordered contractors in both cases to remove the nets. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.